Hi everyone, you're watching the Q&A session. I threw out a while back that Sam's channel, the new Sam's channel, had hit 1,000 subscribers, which is amazing, thank you very much. And posed it to you guys to ask me some questions to celebrate and sort of say thank you. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As you can see, I've got the camera out, which is completely different than what we've done before. Don't expect this too much because I don't much care for filming myself. But yeah, we're just gonna hang out and I'm gonna answer some questions from you guys. But to all you guys that asked, thank you very much. Unfortunately and naturally, I can't ask every single question that was sort of put forward to me because some of you asked like 5 questions. But I've tried to sort of compile a list of questions that I think I can get the sort of best answers, give the best answers for. So let's dive in. Did you watch the Lego Movie 2? Yes, I did watch the Lego Movie 2, and I loved the Lego Movie 2. That's kind of a film that sort of just came and went, and it sort of went under the radar. But I really enjoyed that. People that know me know that the Lego Movie is one of my favourite films, and the Lego Movie 2 sort of naturally carries on the story in a really great way, because I kind of thought, approaching it, that once you've done the big, shocking, the true nature of their world reveal in the first movie, that the second one can only really ignore that, and then it will just feel weird. It would lose that charm. What I like about the second one is it goes head first. It proper dives into the allegorical storytelling perspectives of both the imaginary world and the real world of this boy and his sister. It's a little bit like the Toy Story movies. Parents will watch that and they'll understand the allegory of, watching their kid go off to college or whatever like that. This is before Toy Story 3 where the kid actually does go to college. But yeah, I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller are excellent filmmakers. And they make all the right choices with the filmmaking talent that they bring on, and they're great writers. I hope they write scripts to my favourite film franchises till the end of time. Sam, are you a Twin Peaks fan? I am a fan of Twin Peaks, so I ended up getting recommended it by my friends at university, and I ended up hiring out season 1 from the library. Season 1 is quite excellent. Season 2 is excellent at the beginning, and I'm sure if you ask anyone this, they'll tell you the same, but the beginning of season 2 is great, and then the rest of it is a massive drag because of TV airing network politics that no one, I'm not going to bore you with, and the finale is excellent as well. My favourite piece of any Twin Peaks media is the movie Fire Walk with Me, which is just a phenomenal David Lynch horror movie. What I like about the new series is that it goes completely David Lynch, abstract, experimental, and I don't pretend to understand everything that goes on in it, but it is fascinating. And I love the online discussion. Twin Peaks is one of the few franchises where the online discussion is actually really, really interesting, really healthy. It's not toxic at all, which is astonishing considering the contrast of the newer series to the original. Or even the movie. All 3 of those bits of media are very different from each other. So that's surprising that the fandom is so humble and, welcoming to different types of Twin Peaks media. But yeah, if they do another series, I will watch it. But yeah, I've got a couple of Twin Peaks books. So yeah, I am sort of a fan. What are your top 10 favourite TV shows, animated or live action? So a few that I love are Extras. Extras starts out as, a gag of the week sort of TV series where they'll get, what celebrity can we get in to make themselves look like a complete arsehole. And then season 2 comes about and they actually sort of weave it into a really lovely story and there's a bit of a social commentary on celebrity culture and fame in media and things like that. It's a really sweet story, and the friendship of the 2 main characters really stands out. It's a really typical thing to say, and I know because everyone was telling me to watch it when it was on, but Breaking Bad is an excellent series. The best thing about Breaking Bad is that it's 5 seasons. Some of it drags, and some of that is due to the writer's strike that happened in season 1. Season 1's a bit of a slog to get through. But it is an incredible story. that they tell, and Bryan Cranston is phenomenal in the lead role. And it's only 5 seasons long. They knew when to quit. They knew when to get in and get out, and I think they're doing that with Mr. Robot, which is another one of my favourite shows. And I think that's fantastic when, you know, they tell the story exactly as long as they'd like to tell it, and it doesn't turn into something like Arrow, where, you know, they've even gone past the 5-year limit that they'd set themselves at the beginning, with the whole flashbacks, each season being a year of flashback, and he was gone for 5 years, implying that you need to wrap the story up by season 5. Well, they just don't do that anymore because they got really big and popular, and they just wanted to keep, you know, it's the profit versus artistic integrity. But yeah, I love Mr. Robot. That, along with Legion, which is another favourite, shares the angle of the unreliable narrator. Legion has some of the best editing I've seen in a TV series, and I don't think many people seek it out, but it really is incredible. I think Dan Stevens is one of the best actors around, and Aubrey Plaza completely surprises in a villainous role that I won't get too in detail about. I've only seen the beginning of season 2, but I think that show is phenomenal. I mean, it reminds me a lot of sort of early Steve Ditko, sort of Doctor Strange content, where, you know, 2 characters can have a fight in the astral plane. So in actuality, an entire episode can take place in someone's head, and you hardly ever know. Again, unreliable narrator. You don't know, you know, if what you're seeing is real, and you can interpret things differently. I mean, there's a sequence between the hero and the villain where they meet on a dance floor, and then they just dance. They have a dance off, and you don't know if they're fighting or if they're conversing and working together. So that, you know, that show has so much fun with sort of how it depicts the story that it's telling, and nothing that is so tied into the other aspects of the production. I'm sure they've probably got, you know, edits and things like that written in the script, because all of that is so integral to, you know, getting it viscerally as across as they can. Futurama is a favourite of mine. I mean, I've always loved Futurama. I've always found it hilarious. It wasn't as good when it came back, because all the voice actors sounded like they were shouting for some strange reason. And Westworld season 1 was the best science fiction movie, you know, 8-hour-long science fiction movie that came out the year that season 1 came out. I mean, the production values were phenomenal, and it was really well written and a huge payoff. Really, really concise storytelling in that.
What's your favourite Indiana Jones movie?
The one with Sean Connery.
What do you think that we can do to fix the overabundance of sequels, reboots and remakes being made in Hollywood now, instead of original work?
That's a really big question, and I would probably say that the starting point is stop supporting movies like the Lion King remake or the Aladdin remake. Unless you think they look good. That's not me saying anyone that does want to go see these or is excited for them, you know, is wrong, or you know, that I look down upon anyone. But I definitely think if you're the kind of person that is sick of remakes, you know, reboots and sequels and you know, and you're calling for more originality in cinema, don't tell the entertainment industries that you want more of the same thing. Show them that you want original stuff by not supporting more of the same.
What are some of your favourite making-of features on DVDs?
So, there's not really a way to... The Blu-ray for Bambi is set up where you have to watch it kind of with the movie, rather than just being able to select different little, like, 5-minute documentaries. But the Blu-ray for Bambi has some terrific making-of features where they've taken transcripts from the meetings that they had for that movie, and they've reenacted them with voice actors, you know, doing, you know, Walt Disney voice actor and so on and so forth. And it's fascinating. Bambi's one of my favourite films, and just seeing the drawings and the footage of them sort of working together, and sort of realising the film is a fascinating... I mean, Tyrus Wong, just, you know, hearing him talk about his art style and you know, bringing that to the project, that's a fantastic... I don't know if I'd call it a making-of documentary, because it's much more of an interactive experience where it asks you, do you want to now see a behind-the-scenes thing for this scene, or do you want to just carry on? But I do wish that they would release a whenever the next release is, that they have all that content, but you can just sort of select different chapters and different versions of that. Any making of footage for Mad Max Fury Road is phenomenal, just because the stunt work and the pyrotechnics and the vehicle stunt work in that is tremendous. You understand just watching it why it took 3 years to make. Making Iron Man is a tremendous documentary, and part of that comes from the underdog spirit that Marvel just does not have anymore. But you know, way back when, Marvel Studios was just something they were trying, and oh hey, we got Iron Man. Hey, let's get Jon Favreau. He'll probably do something really interesting with it. And it's just full of people really excited to make this, you know, summer blockbuster and make a movie rather than, you know, we've got to make something that then leads into Black Panther or whatever. Yeah, there's a huge underdog spirit. I just love the interview with Jon Favreau in that, where he just says, yeah, we don't really know if the movie's going to make... We don't know if people are going to like the movie, but we're certainly happy with it. And the same goes for the Spider-Man 2 documentary, where, you know, you can look at costume design. They talk about the eyepieces, for God's sake. And, you know, there's a real fidelity and affection for not only the source material in those documentaries, but the directing style of Sam Raimi. Whoever directed that documentary knew the significance of having a director as prolific and, you know, a director with so much character like Sam Raimi take on something that is so iconic and so meaningful to people. Oh, actually, the Alien movies, the 4 Alien films on Blu-ray, they have tremendous making of documentaries. Fox pulled out all the stops for that release because they remastered the films, and there's like 3-hour documentaries for each Alien movie, and the stories that you hear them talk about is fascinating insight. Those are actually a goldmine. I would definitely recommend the 4 Alien movie box sets. In terms of films that aren't on making of, you know, that they're not bonus content on a DVD, Hearts of Darkness is a phenomenal sort of almost psychedelic sort of nightmare of a making of documentary, which is just as visceral as Apocalypse Now in terms of sort of making you feel the deranged sort of the craziness, the psychotic nature of the Vietnam War. It's a fantastic companion piece to Apocalypse Now. And Francis Ford Coppola, I mean, just listen to some of the discussions that he has with his wife. I mean, it's phenomenally done. Lost in La Mancha is a great documentary of a film that never got made, in Terry Gilliam's The Man That Shot Don. I'm not going to try and say his surname because I can never remember how to pronounce it. But he has just finished that movie, so it'll be really interesting to watch Lost in La Mancha and then actually watch the finished product, you know, 20 odd years later or however long it's been. And just recently I watched a documentary on the making of The Emperor's New Groove, called The Sweatbox, but it's more about the movie that they were making before it became The Emperor's New Groove. And Sting's wife, I think, shot a lot of the footage for it. And Sting is like a really prevalent part of the documentary, but that's a really interesting watch, because, you know, it is people, you know, pouring their hearts out on screen, and I've seen some people watch it and sort of villainize Disney over it, and, you know, I tend to villainize Disney now more so than anything, but I actually think the documentary is an interesting look at making something that has a lot of artistic vision behind it more commercial, and whether or not that's a good or bad thing is up to debate. But you know, I would have loved to have seen the movie that they were sort of pitching for, you know, originally. But at the same time, The Emperor's New Groove to me is one of the funniest Disney animated films out there. So that's a really interesting watch.
Will you ever rejoin the Film Brits podcast with Trilby?
I really enjoyed doing that podcast. You know, that was something that Will and I can't remember who reached out to who, but you know, we were both fond of each other's work, and we were both British, and you know, we both sort of had a similar mindset. So I really enjoyed doing that. The reason I stopped doing it was just because I was at university, and it's sort of the same reason that, you know, the channel has gone through such a reconstruction, and why there was nothing for quite a while. It's because I had to prioritise. University work is difficult, and I eventually said to Will, you know, I really enjoy doing this, but I just don't have the time or the energy to do this every week, which he was very respectful of, and I think it's great that he's carried it on. But I mean, he hasn't, you know, popped me a message or given me a ring, but you know, if Will wants to have me back on, I'd be absolutely delighted. I really enjoyed doing that podcast, so yeah, call me.
How much has film school changed your perspective on film, and would you recommend it to anyone wanting to get into film?
I mean, this is just from my perspective, but I would recommend it. I mean, you know, that's not me saying I recommend spending 9k a year to study it. But I certainly think if you want to get a proper insight into how the industry works and the hierarchy that sort of the hierarchy that occurs within film production and how that all operates. Because, you know, when I started film school, I couldn't have told you what a gaffer was. I couldn't have told you what a first assistant director did. I couldn't have told you what they were responsible for. And the more you know that, the more insight you gain into the entire process of what it's like to make a film. And I also think if you want to be a more insightful critic or analyst or reviewer or whatever, it really helps to actually get behind the camera and realize that, you know, filmmaking, for me, filmmaking is some of the most difficult stuff that I've had to do in my life. And I've done a bar mitzvah, for God's sake. I think that's really helpful, because you gain a new appreciation for the level of effort and commitment and compromise that people have to go through to get a film made. And I think it will make you kinder as well when you judge a film, because you know, you could blame the script, but I mean, who knows what that script looked like when they started production? I mean, you have no idea. So yeah, I definitely, from my perspective, I would recommend it, because I feel like I'm better off for it. Not debt-wise, but yeah, I definitely, if you can, then do. But there are people that are really successful filmmakers that didn't go to film school, so what do I know?
Who is your favourite SpiderMan villain?
Pretty much any of them that are the most pathetic. The thing that appeals to me the most about Spider-Man is the juxtaposition of the mundane and the completely silly superheroics. So the more flamboyant and dumb and ridiculous the superheroics, the better contrast it is to the you know, Peter Parker not showing up on a date or getting his homework in on time, because that's a really fun dynamic. So I mean, you know, people like Rhino, I mean, he's basically wearing like a latex outfit, and he's like a big muscly guy, and he's got a rhino horn. He looks ridiculous. And that's part of why I love Rhino. And Electro is another one of those guys where he's just wearing skin tight, you know, they're all wearing unitards and stuff like that. The more flamboyant and the more camp it is, I love that. I love Mysterio, who's incredibly theatrical. I love Vulture. So yeah, the more flamboyant, the more theatrical a Spider-Man villain is, the more likely I am to really appreciate that character. So yeah, I mean, I also, you know, I don't think I dislike any Spider-Man villain. I mean, maybe Scorpion, because I just think he's really bland, but he's never really interested me. His costume is a bit whatever. He's another green villain. Spider-Man has plenty of green villains, and he's got a tail that stings people. He's just a bit too bland for that contrast to be as fun as it could be to me.
What are the drawbacks of doing YouTube to you, and specifically film reviews/critique?
That's a good question. I would probably say that the most difficult thing about YouTube is if you want to make any money off of it, you've got to really put considerable time and effort and energy into stuff that's not going to make any money for a very long time. You've got to reach 4,000 hours of watch time. Hours, which is a long time. 4,000. I mean, like, you know, and this might not seem like a lot to some of the bigger YouTube channels, but, you know, if you want to make a genuine career off of your channel, I mean, you've got to put the time in. And I think another thing that's difficult is that, you know, everyone's on YouTube now, and I think there's a big pressure for people to come up with things that are super insightful and that you have to make the biggest point ever in your video, which you really don't. Just make stuff that you yourself would want to watch, and just, you know, put your opinions out there, or put your talents out there, whether it's giving off opinions, whether it's filming stuff. Just do what you want to do, and if it's good, the audience will come. But yeah, don't worry about all the other people that are, you know, storming getting all the views, and that people are saying is the most insightful person ever. Because that can be a difficult pressure to live up to, and you can let it get to you. So I would absolutely say do it because you enjoy doing it. And I do enjoy doing it. I love the writing, and you know, seeing a video come together and seeing people, you know, finally watch it is a huge huge sort of satisfaction for me. But yeah, do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because, you know, you're trying to get more views than Patrick Willems or whatever.
Best cinema experience?
So my favourite cinema experience is undoubtedly The Force Awakens. I had ended up buying into the hype by the time that movie came out. It's got to be one of my most anticipated films, to be honest. And when, you know, we all went to the midnight viewing, I got a bunch of friends together, and you know, we had drinks before, and we were saying, you know, who do you reckon is going to die and things like that. So it was a fun night anyway. And then we got in for Star Wars, and we all just became, you know, it was the spirit was so positive, and everyone was just really excited to be watching new Star Wars again. And I remember a guy came in, you know, dressed as a Jedi, and we all sort of went, "Hey!" And then he got a lightsaber out and turned it on, and we were like, "Hey!" So, you know, everyone was really in the mood and in the spirit. And then the movie happened, and then it's one of my favourite movies. Someone spoiled it to me 15 minutes before it started, and didn't change anything. I still adored the movie. Still had a wonderful time. We laughed, we cheered, the Star Wars logo came up, and everyone was applauding. I don't feel like that's ever gonna. I don't feel like I'm ever gonna have that experience again, because now they do a Star Wars movie every year, and it's completely removed the event of it. But yeah, that was a wonderful experience. So yeah, Force Awakens, absolutely.
Would you ever consider remaking one of your oldest videos that got removed, such as Top 10 Batman movies and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan?
God, Top 10 Batman movies? You've got to have been following me for bloody ages. Well, thank you just for that, because, and I'm not even saying this to be funny, I legitimately forgot that video existed. So in answer to your question, I didn't even really consider it until I saw your question. I don't think so. I think I'd like to do top 10 videos at some point again. But I don't have any plans to actually, you know, go through old videos that I've done and remake them per se. For the longest time, I wanted to redo the Tobey Maguire is the perfect Spider-Man video, because I'm speaking so quickly in that video, and I think it's a genuinely good. I think what I'm saying is genuinely good stuff, but I think it's butchered in my delivery. But, you know, in saying that, you know, looking at it, it's very much of its time. It was when the Amazing series was, you know, at the height of its game, and people were, you know, slagging off the Raimi series, and I don't really think things are like that anymore. So if I were to redo that script, it would need a complete rewrite, because, I mean, different context, different time and place, and I just think it would be too much stuff to go through. And I've said it, you know, people have heard it. So I don't have any plans necessarily to remake any old videos. I like to let things sort of, you know, speak for themselves, and the more imperfections you find in your work, the more you can improve it on into the future. I don't like to focus too much on redoing older videos. But if there's a, you know, good reason for it, then I will consider it. So that's all the questions that those are all the questions that I chose. Thank you so much for watching. Please do tell me in the comments if you like this kind of video. I don't normally film myself because it's not something I tend to, gravitate towards, but if it's something that you enjoy or that you found boring or whatever, please do tell me, and I'm not going to take it personally. But thank you so much for watching. It was really fun to sort of engage, just sort of sit down with you guys and have a chat. Thank you so much for all your support and for sending in these questions. Thank you very much, and see you guys soon.